Hey, welcome to the conversation that's as diverse as the dogs that we adore. This is Gun Dogs and Guard Dogs, ultimate podcast dedicated to talking sense about dogs with Les Graham and Ross McCarthy. They work with all breeds of dog, but one specialises in gun dogs and the other prefers guard dogs. No flashy trends or social media hype here, just tried and true knowledge that stands the test of time. They bring you valuable insights and honest conversations about the social predator you share your home with. So here we go. About 45 minutes of gun dogs, guard dogs, good dogs, some maybe not so good dogs, and a dash of gossip.
Here we go.
Here we go. Are you going to burst into song?
I don't think so. We've just had the slightly longer theme tune, haven't we?
We have. We have. That was clever. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
On air, on the podcast, I'm doing fine. I've already had a rant off before we started.
I know. We've been on for half an hour ranting.
Yeah. So yeah, officially fine.
Officially fine. We've got something to live up to after the last podcast, haven't we?
Really fascinating, wasn't it? Really interesting, and really what a really lovely bloke as well. He's really sent a nice email and stuff afterwards, didn't he?
Yeah, he's great. I really like him.
And he's very, very happy to come back on to do another session with any questions that people have got relating to that. So Andrew Armitage, wasn't it, from Stem Cells
Scotland. Stem Cell Scotland is his website.
Yeah.
Greenside Regenerative Therapies.
Greenside what therapies?
I knew you were going to pull me up on that. Greenside Regenerative Therapies in Melrose.
Yeah, no, it was
In the
fascinating.
Scottish borders.
Yeah, no, it's good. And we've got another upcoming podcast, haven't we, about arthritis?
At some point, yeah, I need to get Hannah booked in.
Yeah,
I've
no,
spoken to her. She's going to come and talk to us, but I haven't got a date in the diary yet.
no, but that would be exciting, fascinating
Mm.
subjects. But today, just the two of us.
Oh, bit of blonde on blonde, huh?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, grey.
Yeah, grey and gloomy. Um, what's the subject for today then? What are we talking about today?
Being a behaviourist, I think
Ooh, fascinating subject.
it really is, and what it takes to be a behaviourist, and how we became behaviourists.
Yeah, cool.
So,
So it's not quite the occupation that a lot of people think it is at times, is it?
no, it
Not,
sounds really glam, and um, you know, especially on social media at the minute, you've got all these influencers and they're putting out these memes and videos, and half the time they're acting rather than actually doing the work.
yeah,
Uh, I know there's a few people, I'm not going to name names, but I know there's a few training schools. There's a case of, you know, come and train to be a dog trainer or a behaviourist for 6 months, and then we'll show you how to do amazing online stuff. So you don't really have to learn about training dogs. You just have to know how to do social media.
yeah.
And that's not what it's about.
No, I think a lot of it, like even like the TV shows and things like that, it does, like you said, makes it look a bit glamorous. And you think, well, that'd be a nice job, just sort of driving about and going into people's houses and playing with their dogs and then going.
And it's really not. It's really not. It can be dangerous. There can be a lot of snot and tears at times from the owners. You
Yeah,
know, it can be emotionally draining,
yeah. It's quite a challenging job. I mean, I have lots
dangerous,
of people say to me, oh, that's a fun job. And I think, well, not sure it is fun. It's quite,
fascinating.
it's fascinating. You see all aspects of human life and canine life. But like you said, it's emotional. It can be really draining at times,
Mhm.
be very stressful, dangerous. Um, like any other occupation working with people, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah,
It has its moments of absolute, you know,
joy.
joy and wonder, and you get fabulous emails and wonderful phone calls from clients and things. And then other times you have like, very difficult cases to
Yeah.
work. Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
So what do you think, before we talk about us, what do you think the qualities are for behaviourists?
I think number one is like
Personal qualities first. So as a
uh,
person, what kind of person?
I think they have to. I think the overwhelmingly they have to have like a passion for dogs and for the subject, and somewhat for people as well. I think you can't go into this occupation thinking I don't really know what else to do, and I quite like dogs, so I'll do that. I don't think that's enough. I think you need a real strong drive to do it, to want to do it, to want to help people, to want to change the dogs and to make a difference.
Mhm.
Um, you need a lot of skills actually. You need a lot of sort of interpersonal skills, the ability to write reports, to liaise with different agencies, to deliver, information sometimes that's kind of unwanted and, difficult to deliver, difficult to receive, things like that. So there are a lot of skills required, I think.
But yeah, but what about personality wise? Because we're going to get on the skills, but
Right.
personalities, you have to be quite resilient, don't you?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, you do. I think you have to be quite, I mean, it helps if, well, if you're confident, I suppose, really, your confidence, because you have to be quite confident to deliver what you need to deliver, don't you?
Yeah, you can't walk into a room with an aggressive dog and not be confident because you'll get bit. You'll
Yeah.
put yourself and everybody else in the room at risk.
Yeah. And I think from from the human aspect as well, I think it's, obviously people are paying you for a service.
Mhm.
So sometimes you can feel possibly, depending on your personality type, a little bit deferential because they're paying you, you're working for them effectively,
Mhm.
um, which can make it difficult to deliver advice. Because sometimes, like I've said to you before, but when I was younger, I used to tie myself in knots trying to sort of come up with answers when there weren't answers. Do you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Whereas
Uh-huh.
now I don't. I'm confident enough to say, well, that might be what you want, but that's not going to happen. You're not going to achieve
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of important because you can't send people down a cul-de-sac, can you? Do you know what I mean? A dead end street. You've got, there's no point just saying things because they
Because
want
that's
to
what you
hear
want to
them.
hear. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think I think a lot of that comes through experience, but
Yeah.
I think you're right. You do need that level of self-conviction, don't you?
Yes.
That you're doing the right thing and not be swayed. Because I mean, I was really lucky. I found my true north really early on
Yeah.
with Noel. Um, and I had a wobble on my true north last year, actually.
Oh,
Oh, I know. Oh, I know you didn't know that, did you? I thought I told
yeah.
you.
That's late
Um,
in the day.
what?
That's late in the day for a wobble.
It was very late in the day for a wobble. Just, it's just that whole influence thing. You end up watching too much crap on social media. And but then I came back on my path again, back on True North.
What was your wobble then? What does that mean?
Just not doubting as such, but just thinking, I suppose just like almost doubting yourself at times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it was because I'd started doing a new dog sport.
Okay. Yeah.
And so because I know gun dog training inside out, and it's like I can do it with my eyes closed, I can do it in my sleep, it's not a biggie. And my behavior work, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dogs. It's not an issue. You do it without thinking, don't you? But learning a new sport where you're having to learn a new way of teaching, for example, a retrieve or a hold,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, what I don't know what I'm doing. Because
Yeah.
you're learning new techniques, you're learning a new sport, you're learning, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of feel out of your depth and it's a bit, and so it wasn't, I suppose it wasn't so much losing my true north because I've always known exactly what a dog is, but it's more learning a new skill, a new discipline.
Mm.
I just went from being like up here at the top of my game to like shit, I've got no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think that's where the wobble come from. It was like, oh my God, I felt really at my depth.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I think a lot of people, well, I think we've all had wobbles and do have wobbles, and a lot of our students that have that, because again, like you said,
Mhm.
that influence from a lot of the social media content and things like that.
Yeah,
I think, oh, maybe I'm doing this wrong. I don't do it. There's a better way.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
find a better way because everybody else is doing it better.
Uh-huh.
And then you go off down that path, and then most of us find out, no, they're not doing it better, and you were doing all right. So, you know,
Yeah.
get back
And
to it.
I think that's what it was. It was because um you know things like at the training club, it was let your dog say hello, let your dog say hello. It's something I've never done. I never let my dog say hello. And when I was going off training with a small group in obedience, it was like, oh, you know, he needs to go and be okay with the people and then just call them back. Well, that's something that I've never done.
Mm,
Never let my dogs because at some point they're going to be under a gun. I don't want them going over and saying hello to people with a gun in their hand,
no, no.
ever. And so I think that was it. And I've actually stopped going to training classes.
Mm.
I've given up my obedience clubs because of it.
It's quite difficult to go unless you know the trainers that you're working with, and they just let you do your own thing. It's quite difficult to go to another training class and things like that, isn't it? Because you
Mhm.
don't want to do what you don't want to do.
No,
That's the
and
trouble.
I'm now with a one-to-one trainer, which is really good. She's got a lot of the same ideologies as myself. But I'm learning because I'm learning a new sport as well. But from a behaviour perspective,
Yeah,
we're on the same path. Do you know, we're on
yeah,
the same sheet from a
yeah.
behaviour perspective. And then she's teaching me how to train. We're heading for C, you know, the plan is like, you know me, if you're not going to win, don't compete. If you're not competing to win, don't make up numbers.
Don't bother. Yeah,
And so we're planning for the top competition, but from a behaviour perspective, so I'm learning training techniques for obedience. From a behaviour perspective, we're absolutely in step.
yeah. No, that's
Which is
important, isn't it?
key. It's really key. And I think it's because yeah. So I think that's it. I think
And I
that's
think,
what it was. You know, it made me kind of I just felt completely at my depth. But it's because I was learning a new sport. You know, I've been gun dog training for like over 20 years.
yeah. No, and I think that's also why it's important to have like a network around you of like-minded people that you can
Definitely.
talk to for like reassurance or just, just a conversation to rebalance you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely key. But I think having when you find that north, not to chop and change, it's so easy to chop and change. And I think we've spoken in the past about, you know, behaviourists who go on about follow the science, but they're not actually following it themselves because they're not
Mm,
looking at the dog as the dog, they're looking at the stuff that happens in a lab. Um, and I think it's so easy to be swayed by social media.
yeah, I think so. And especially if you're working on your own because you haven't got anybody to bounce the ideas off and chat to and things like that, it is very difficult to get a bit lost
Mhm,
in the mist, isn't it, really?
mhm.
But no, you've got to know what you're doing because you can't go in and have clients changing your mind, can you? You've got to know what you're doing and
No,
where you're at. You can't have kind of like,
but
oh, what?
that's more skills, isn't it?
Mm.
So what skills do you need then? We've done person. Is there anything else about personality? It's like being like confident. Um,
I think we have this conversation quite a bit. You need to be a bit of a chameleon. You can't just you might be differently, might be different. I find you can't just be yourself. You have to somehow mirror the other people. So,
yeah.
sometimes you'll have a very serious behavior consult,
Mhm,
and other times you'll, be able to have a bit of a laugh and whatever throughout.
mhm.
But that's governed by your client, not by you, and
Yeah.
obviously the situation as well. But I think you have to kind of, because again, it's like this, the clients that you go to see. So I might be in, a mansion in, Pimlico or something one day, and then I might be in a high-rise apartment in East London the next.
Hmm.
But and the people are very different.
Hmm.
And I don't change my complete personality, but you have, the language that you use and the way that you kind of talk to people and deliver information has to be suited to the person in front of you. You can't just go in and be the same to get the results. That sounds really fake and phony, doesn't
No,
it?
it doesn't. It doesn't. You have to be able to develop a rapport with people.
Yeah,
You have to be able to develop that. So it's I don't know if it's being a chameleon or not, but I think it's you definitely have to be able to develop rapport with different types of people. You have to be able to talk to the whole spectrum of society and be
yeah,
confident doing it, not feel intimidated by the environment that you're working in. So whether you're working in like big country houses and estates or working in slums,
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Because
We,
as a behaviourist, I think just because you can demand a lot of money when you get at the top of your game, um, doesn't mean that you're not going to be working in slums at times. Because if you're doing court work or you're doing a behaviour assessments, then
yeah,
you could well be working in places where where you're sitting in a room full of graffiti, which, speaking from experience, I have. It's like you have to be able to develop that
yeah. No,
skill.
yeah, you totally do because you can't. The whole sort of premise, really, regardless of how good you are with dogs, has to be about getting people on board, changing their existing views most of the time,
Mhm.
and kind of in order to do that, people really have to A, like you, and B, trust you.
Yeah.
Because if you put their back up when you go in and say, "Oh my God, your dog's fat," then you're like, "Okay, so now we're on the
And
back
you
foot."
can fat
Yeah,
off.
you can go and jog on. And so you can't. You have to deliver the info. You have to get people on side. People have to kind of like you and trust you, like I said. And then once people are on side, you can deliver information. And as always, it's the way you deliver things. So after, when you're halfway through the consult, you can say, "Oh, does the vet think that your dog's a little bit heavy, a little bit overweight as well? Or do you think, do you know what I mean?" And then you can have the conversation once you're in and you've kind of got a relationship with them. But it takes a little bit of time, and it has to happen quickly because you're not there for months, are you? You're only there for a couple of hours, but has to happen quickly
Mhm.
that they
Definitely.
they trust you.
You have to learn to read people. Definitely have to. I think I think once you've learned dog behavior, then the emphasis is on people's skills. Because
Yeah,
you have to motivate. The change has got to come from them.
yeah,
It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do within a consult. You're only as good as what they do when you leave.
yeah, yeah,
And you have to motivate them to do stuff. And if you
yeah.
can't motivate them to do stuff, then it ain't gonna happen.
No, and I think like you said about reading people, I know you did courses on micro expressions and face reading and stuff, but I think a lot of us have like an innate ability
Definitely.
because we're all people to look. And when you're talking to someone and you're like, well, you need to exercise your dog for, at least an hour a day, whatever, and you see a look flicker across their face, then you open up that conversation. Be like, no, is that not, we can't do that?
Mhm.
Because there's no point saying that and then just ignore, you know what I mean? Not doing it, is there? You've got to have a conversation. Say, well, yeah, you can't do that. Okay, so that's a problem then.
And then it's building it, but it's having the confidence to do that. And this
Mm,
this comes back to personality types, doesn't it? It's like
yeah,
you have to be confident enough to speak up.
yeah, you do. And again, it's something that probably you have to learn because I remember a long time ago when I started this occupation when I was like properly visiting homes when I was early 20s and I looked about 12. Do you know what I mean? And you have to kind of blag the con because I used to go into these great big posh houses and I'd be like, who are you? Who the hell are you to rock up here and go and talk to these multi-millionaires about their poodle? Do you know what I mean? And but you have to sort of blag your confidence a little bit because people, if you don't come across as you know what you're doing,
Mhm.
then
So
you're dismissed.
yeah, and that comes down to yeah. Yeah, you do have to blag it. You have to take the position, like the physical structure, if you like, of being somebody confident. If you go in all meek and mild and hiding behind your treatment, um your behaviour case, then you're gonna everything about you is saying that you're not very
Yeah.
confident.
Yeah.
Your brain will release the whatever chemicals it needs to make
Yeah.
you unconfident. Whereas if you go in shoulders back,
Yeah.
head up, shoulders back, yeah, I know what I'm doing, then your brain will release the
Yeah.
stuff that it needs to release to get you confident and moving
Yeah.
forward.
And what you wear as well. I mean, I always used to. I don't so much now. I do. I don't wear like a hoodie and jean. I'm smart when I go to see clients, but I used to wear like a suit jacket and stuff as well when I was a lot
Yeah,
younger,
I remember.
just to give me a little bit more kudos. If look like you
Yes, go as the
were.
consultant or the kennel maid.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to rock up in your hairy fleece with your logo on it. Do you know what I mean? It's you've got to be if people are paying for a consultant, and that's what they
Then
get.
that you have to turn up as a consultant. Yeah,
Mm.
that always used to go through my head, turn up as a consultant, not as a kennel maid. I know you
Yeah.
probably can't say kennel maid now, but that's the kind of
No.
it's a whole image,
No.
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't affect your knowledge. I mean, if I go to someone's house in a hoodie or a jacket, it doesn't affect the knowledge or the what they're gonna get out of it, but it makes me feel more confident and that I'm earning my money and hopefully conveys to them that I give a shit.
Yeah, well, it's that whole it's a belief system, isn't it? The thing is, I think as a behaviorist, we are playing and working with people's belief systems all the time. So if you turn up and you're not very confident, their first impression is this person isn't very confident. If you turn up, um, as a consultant, then the first impression is this person's a professional, they know what they're doing, they've got the
Yeah,
equipment with them. And then when you start handling yourself accordingly, then that just adds to their belief that they're paying the right person.
yeah,
And so everything you do from the second they open the door, or before then actually, because it's the phone call, it's chatting to them over the phone, it's
yeah,
how good your forms are.
yeah, exactly.
It
Because
all
if
add to the belief that you know what you're doing, they can trust you, and they will hand over money and do their job, which is
yeah,
do the homework and do the training you're recommending.
yeah, no, exactly. No, you do. It is a lot of it. Well, like a colleague used to say, the image of success creates success. And you kind of, you need to look like you know what you're doing, don't you, for sure? As well as knowing what you're doing. I mean, you can't
Well, that was going to say the
you
next
can't
thing,
just dress
skills.
can't just dress
So
smart.
yeah, you dress smart. You know what you've sorted out like the temperament, personality bit with um being confident, having the conviction, all of that lot. But then you need to know your stuff as well. There's no point in doing a weekend course and reading a book and thinking you know how to train a dog, know
No.
how to train a dog and know how to change behavior. I mean, there are behaviorists out there who don't know how to hold a lead,
Yeah, there are.
as we know because we attended a lot of meetings with them.
Yeah. No, you're quite well, as you know, you're quite right. And
Thank
as
you.
as we see,
I know I'm quite right.
quite right. And as we see, I mean, as we've spoken about before, and as we see all the time, there are a lot of people. We don't always get, 100% success. We can only do the best we can do. And if people don't follow the information or are unable to or whatever, then it doesn't give us, I'm not
Yeah.
saying we'd always achieve remarkable results, but there are a lot of people that are going out there at the moment causing more harm than good, really. And I don't know how, because when, we've spoken about qualifications and things before, and I think qualification is important. I think industry regulation would be beneficial, but there are a lot of people with qualifications going out there that don't have the practical experience that underpins, yes, academic import it's very important to have that, but equally having worked in kennels and picked up dog poo and stopped dogs jumping and lunging through doors and stop, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Learning the practical skills of like being around dogs and, you know, stopping altercations between dogs and breaking up fights when they've occurred and all of those things that you learn from sort of like the grassroots stuff, like the rescue kennels or the boarding kennels or the dog walking and everything else.
Mhm.
You need all of those practical skills to kind of come into play because ultimately you have to handle people's dogs. And
Mhm.
when you go into a home, people often sort of almost give up and sort of throw it over to you. Well, you're the trainer. You
Yeah,
do what you need to do.
you do
And
it.
of course, yeah, so sometimes you do, the dog comes charging at you to bite you. You can't say, oh, I remember reading a chapter on this. I mean, you need, I'm going to need,
Hang on a minute, just stop there. Let me get my phone out and look up resource
yeah,
guarding because I can't
yeah,
quite remember what it is.
yeah. No, you need to think on your feet and some quick kind of handling skills. And I think that's what makes the occupation very difficult is it's quite multifaceted, the experience that you need. Do you know what I mean? To kind of to pull it all together.
Mhm. And um, how did you how did you get on the path of being a behaviourist? What did you do to earn and learn the underpinning knowledge that you've got that has made you such a successful behaviourist?
So I think it again, like I said, it started with passion. So this is what I wanted to do. There wasn't really any doubt in my mind. It wasn't like I'd like to be an astronaut or I'd like to do this is what I wanted to do. And as we've just said already, it's not perhaps the occupation that I thought it was before I did it, but this is what I wanted to do. Um, and I started, walking dogs when I was like 8 years old. And I remember introducing dogs to the new group, and I'd tie one of them up onto the tap outside my mum's house.
Uh,
And then I'd bring the other dogs over and introduce them. I was on my own, like 8 years old, mucking about. And obviously, did some dangerous things and whatever, like we do. Um, and then just went from there, really. Just got jobs, got experience. I was volunteering at Hearing Dogs for Deaf People when I was like 12, working in the kennels, feeding dogs, picking up poo, all that stuff. And then volunteered at a German Shepherd training club. Then through that, through contacts, I got an offer to go to the Canine Behaviour Centre in Hertfordshire and do like a couple of days a week there. And again, picking up dog shit, feeding dogs. But in exchange for that, sitting in and watching behaviour consults and watching training and stuff like that. And then kind of went from there really. But it's all of those that stuff, the dog walking and the kennels, because you can't open a kennel door and just let a dog
no.
run out. You've got to
No.
know how to get through the door without the dog getting out. So all of those things, I think they're, you know, critical for
Mhm.
success, really. What about you? Because you were in New Zealand, really, weren't you, when you kind of
Yeah, when I
started?
jumped, when I jumped. So, um, I used to work with horses when I was younger, and then and had my dog. My dog come everywhere with me, and then um, I got into behaviour through kinesiology. So I was doing kinesiology at the time on dogs and horses, and so I was hands-on. I was doing hands-on manipulative stuff with dogs, which is when I look back now and see these aggressive dogs that I was working on without a muscle,
Hmm.
really scary.
Yeah.
Standing behind a dog and manipulating its back and um yeah, only trusting the owner not to get bit, that you're not going to get bit. Um
Well, it is those things. Sorry to interrupt you, but it is those things that are really important. And we see a lot of, we get a
yeah,
lot of inquiries from dog groomers about they want to move into training and behavior. But they're the handling skills that they've learned, like you with your hands-on therapies. Those skills are amazing because you learn to look
yeah,
at that. You see the dogs, the flicker in the dog's eye. You see the tail move ever
yeah,
so slightly. You feel the dog stiffen, and that's what teach. You know what I mean?
that's
Then
what
you
teaches
learn
you.
what comes next. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting doing I can I can remember working with a rot. It was a person that's aggressive, people aggressive rotty. And I can remember I was on the floor behind her. So I was kneeling on the floor behind it and I was working on its hamstrings, so the muscle down the back of the hind legs. And I can remember just putting my thumb in the gap, and I thought, I'm going to get bit because I just felt everything tense. Do you know what I mean? And I said to Duna, can you just hold his head? Why? Because he's going to bite me. Just
I told you
hold
to.
his head. And so it is, you're right, it's things like that that really make you appreciate just it's the subtleties, it's the subtle changes in body language, and for me, it was a subtle change in the energy as well, and the way the fur moved. Um, and then I in New Zealand, because there wasn't any laws over here, we had to work with a vet, and you still have to work very much with vets. In New Zealand, no rules really in relation to working with animals, and I did a lot. I was working like 2 full days a week at the Kennel Club building doing kinesiology on dogs, and I got more and more into the behaviour side of it because it's like, well, you probably don't, but people talk to you all the time. Like when you go for a drink, it's all what about this and what about that. And what I found is I was doing manipulative therapies on the dog and working with the owner as well to try and change the behaviour. And I got more and more into the behaviour side of it.
Mm.
And then I wrote a course, um, the first course in the world actually on being a kinesiologist, how to work with animals from a kinesiology perspective. And so I did a whole load of stuff on the difference between a predator and a prey, and how you work with them differently, and like the psychology of a prey animal versus the psychology of a predator, how they respond under pain, what the response is.
Mm.
And it just took me down this hole. And at the same time as doing that, I was doing competitive obedience with Angus and Bart. And I used to sit in the cold in the Kennel Club building on a Monday night for 6 hours every Monday for 2.5 years,
Yeah.
watching Noel work his magic with these obedience dogs. And then he was amazing. I used to meet him, and like that, I would pick his brains before he started. He would talk to me after the classes, and I loads and loads of notes. And then he invited me along to behaviour consults. And then I did a couple of distance learning courses as well when I was still in New Zealand,
Hmm.
um, on dog behaviour, dog psychology. I did the same canine psychology course that you did.
Yeah,
Uh,
wonderful.
Wonderful, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah.
joined PACT when it was PAACT, the Professional Association of Applied Canine Trainers, I think it was, when I was still in New Zealand. Um, and so I was doing behaviour work out there, and then when I come back, I made the decision to stop kinesiology, and instead I incorporated all the kinesiology side of it and the A&P and stuff into my behaviour work and the gun dog work. But yeah, really interesting. And then did stuff with wolves as well, as
Yeah, yeah.
both kinesiology, and that was interesting, doing manipulative therapies on a alpha male European wolf. I'm just really glad that I knew how to read the canine form
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah. You
But
have
yeah,
to.
that's how I got into it.
I think what you just said a minute ago about sitting there in the cold or whatever, watching Noel, one thing that like I keep coming back to the word passion. Like you've got to want to do this. And like I'm always so one of our colleagues, Vicky, mentioned her name, when years ago when she started,
Yeah,
every opportunity she was given, do you want to come and help out with temperament assessments on Saturday? Do you want to come and bring your dogs and we'll use them on
yeah,
workshop? Every single opportunity she was presented with, she took. She
yeah.
didn't get paid. There's nothing in it. She used her own fuel money. Yes, I'm
She
going because I'm going to
used to come and
learn.
assist us, didn't
Yeah.
she?
Yeah, and I've done the dog on dog aggression course 5 times. Will I come and do it again? Yes, I will, because every time I come, I learn. And people like that, and she's not on her own, but there are more people that don't have that enthusiasm. Like they say, how much do I get paid? Can I come on a behavior consult with you? And you think, well, there's nothing really in it for me. I've got to drag you along.
Yeah,
So yes, you can, but there needs to be there's got to be some
good
kind.
way thing.
Yeah, we've got, there's got to be a thing. And I'm amazed at the amount of people actually, when you do present like an offer to say, would you like to come and do whatever? Not really. Football's on, or,
Yeah,
got something else to do, or rather just can't be asked. And you can't have that. If you want to do it,
you've got to do
you've
it.
got to do it. And you've got to
Definitely.
do that standing out in the cold, rocking up, using your money. Yeah,
I mean,
just get,
I was so lucky. I mean, like you, I used to turn up with a coffee for Noel. I used to be there 4 o'clock waiting for him to arrive, give him his coffee, set the
yeah,
chairs up, for people turning up, and then I would sit and just watch,
yeah.
watch
That's
and learn and write.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Make the tea, do you not like sweep the floor? Go and, check the gates closed, go and help that woman with her dog. You just
Yeah.
whatever you need to do.
And yeah, and I used to teach for Manco as well, Manco Dog Training Club, and like that. And then I was on the committee, and I took on the newsletter, the Muddy Paws newsletter for the
Yeah,
training club, um, and you turn up. I mean, that's how I ended up teaching. The instructor was sick, and it was like, you teach, you teach kinesiology, come and do
yeah,
puppy, and that was it.
yeah. See, I mean, I had a full-time job when I first started in behaviour.
Hmm.
So I used to do 90 hours a week, working for BP Oil. And then I used to do on my 2 days off, I would do 8-hour days at the behaviour centre. Didn't get
Yeah,
paid for that. Cleaning the kennels, walking the dogs,
yeah.
filling in assessment forms for my own kind of CPD knowledge and stuff like that. Watching behaviour consults, jet washing the path, cutting the grass, playing with dogs, taking them to the vet. All of those things. Didn't get paid for any of that.
Hmm.
I still had to do a full-time job,
Yeah.
and but that I had an amazing opportunity which I took.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't
You've
want to
got
do that,
to.
though.
Definitely. I've got somebody at the door. Can you believe that?
You've got somebody at the door.
Yes, I'm going to ignore it. Well, I haven't ignored it because I've just said there was somebody at the door.
Oh, God. Yeah, I always just ignore it.
Do you?
Well, when I'm on stuff like, yeah,
Ding, ding. We've got a box. They can leave it in the box.
it's
Um,
probably you. I had you don't get it very often, do you? It's just ridiculous. That one of those what are they called? Those those religious court. What I can't think of
oh,
Jehovah's Witness. The other day.
oh, what they
Yeah.
called? Jehovah's Witnesses.
Jehovah's Witness came out. Yeah, I can't
Uh-huh.
believe I answered the door, and he was like, anyway. Yeah, not a religion for me. Shan't tell you what I said to him, but there we are. Yes, as you were.
As you had gone, as you were. Um, yeah, I've lost my train of thought. I'm really sorry.
No, I'm still thinking about the Jehovah's Witness. You were saying we were saying something about how lucky we were, was it? Going to jump on the back of that and say you were lucky to have the opportunities you've
Yeah,
got.
I was really lucky. I was really quite blessed, no. And also Manukau as well, being able to it was huge. It was like, do you know my camera's just gone a bit wobbly. Do you know the where we it oh the Kennel Club at Stoneleigh?
Yeah,
One of those big buildings, right? There was one of them at Ardmore. There's a couple of them at Ardmore. And they used to break it up into like 8 rings. You all had your own teaching ring. And it was chaos. It was
yeah.
dogs coming and going. You'd have like dogs doing competitive obedience in one ring. You'd have puppies screaming the place down in another ring, and dog fights. And yeah, it was interesting times.
Hmm. And it is, yeah, that's where the learning happens, isn't it? And I think for people now, for people sort of wanting to do this, I think there are way more, I mean, 20 odd or 30 years ago, actually now, isn't it? 30 years ago. There
Yeah,
weren't,
I know it's scary, isn't it?
yeah, it is, especially, yeah, well, I'm only 21. But yeah, 30 years ago, there were a couple of distance learning courses and there were like a residential training course and stuff, but there wasn't anything around. Whereas
No.
now there's lots of course providers and you can, including ourselves, um, and you can learn, we do teach like dog body language and things like that,
Yeah.
but you can only learn so much. Do you know what I mean? You can only learn so much from a course or from a book or from a whatever. It's then, I suppose, like learning to drive. You've got your foundation information.
Mhm.
You know that that dog's happy or that dog's sad, but then the nuances of, all of the other minute aspects of behavior. I mean, do you remember that film? And we still play it. We used to play it on basic dog handling of all those dogs just interacting, doing different. It started with the two Rottweilers playing, and then we had the German Shepherds. And do you remember? And
Mhm.
then we had all of our dogs that were sort of in the paddocks and stuff. And I must have seen that, well, hundreds of times. I've seen it hundreds of times on workshops. And for probably the first 10 years I watched it. every time I watched it, I would still see something else.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? You know, you'd just still see something else
Hmm.
in that dog because you get the
Yeah,
chance to
I really liked that film. It was so good because there was a stick, wasn't there? And Vicky picked it up and put it back up in the
get back
tree.
in the tree. That's it. Yeah.
And it was classic because and just seeing the behavior change instantly as soon as the stick was moved was just it was a real key learning. I don't know how quickly the students got it or not, but for us it was like, oh, that was a good key learning there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
No, it's fascinating. It is. It's fascinating the amount. We've got a new film actually that we did not long ago as well. But yeah, the more you learn, I think the more you realize because I think we've you know, you go through this interesting journey of you know nothing, then very quickly you know everything, and then the longer you do it, you realize you really know very little. Do you know what I mean?
Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
It's called Dunning-Kruger. Yeah, Dunning-Kruger's the
That's
Dunning-Kruger
it. Yes,
effect.
you're right.
So
Yes.
do
Oh,
you
you're on
remember? I always talk about
fire
Dunning-Kruger because
today. Yeah.
so I say what?
You're on fire today. You keep
I'm
getting.
on Fight the Day. So the Dunning-Kruger. And I think that's what it was. The whole wobble that I mentioned right at the beginning about obedience was, I mean, I did obedience years ago. Um, but coming back to it, the way it's taught now is completely different, you know.
Yeah.
And so I came in, I know I know a lot about dogs. Well, I like to think I know about dogs, you know, but I know how to train a hold, I know how to train a retrieve, I know how to train loose lead walking, I know how to train. And so I went in and then all of a sudden it was like I hit that dip.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, there's more to this than meets the eye, isn't there? Oh, crikey. And then you come back up.
Mm.
And and that was the wobble that I mentioned that I had right at the beginning, where all of a sudden it's like, wow, there is more to this than just giving the dog something to hold. Um, yeah, Dunning-Kruger, and it happens with all the time. It's
Mm.
kind of, every time you learn something new, depending on your personality type, you learn something new. You go, yeah, oh yeah, there's I've got this. I've done a weekend course. I know about
Mm.
dog behavior,
And I
and you
think
go out. I've had a few students like that, where like gun dog students, and then the hopefully, and I say hopefully, the crash like that. The go. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Oh my God, there's so much more to this. And then they come down.
Mhm.
It's the people who don't come down that are the issue.
Yeah. No, I know it's an interesting learning curve. You just reminded me I did when I started doing like my first behavior consults on my own. I
Uh-huh.
think
Scary.
one of the first behavior consults, it took about 10 minutes. I was done. I was done. I told them everything they needed to know in 10 minutes, and then I didn't know what on earth I was going to do for the next couple of hours. And then from that point, sometimes they were going to like 4 hours. So I'd gone from my 10-minute consult, thinking I'd solved everything in 10 minutes, to then my 4 hour consult because there's so much to get into it. And then obviously at some point find a balance, like hour and a half, 2 hours. But it just that's just kind of the path I went. You know, I didn't know enough information
Yeah,
to get the information that I needed from them. So I sort of delivered it and the consult was finished because I didn't know enough.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I knew part of my other part way down the learning journey, I was trying to piece it all together. So it
And you
was,
went too far the other way.
yes, it was like a 4 hour consult.
Too much information, more information than you needed to do your job.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And more information than they needed to do any, didn't need to, you know,
Uh-huh.
anything, they just needed to know what to do whatever they needed to do. But yeah, it's an interesting
And
journey.
it is, it's really interesting. A lot of it is like belief system as well. You know, we believe it should only take this amount of time if we're good, but actually that's not the case.
No,
But yeah, no, I find Dunning-Kruger really interesting.
yeah.
Interesting phenomenon. I can't even say. Why did I just say? It's a really interesting
Pheromone.
phenomenon. It makes me think of the Muppets, you know, phenomena.
Yeah, I knew you were going there. I knew that's where you were going. Yeah. And
That one.
it is interesting, but people are interesting, and that's like you mentioned already. It's not just about dogs. I mean, it's about people, isn't it? And we see a lot on like the workshops we run and things, the different, processes that people go through forming relationship. People rock up on day one
Yeah.
Everybody's anxious, including us, tutors, whatever. We don't
You've
know the
got no
future.
idea what's going to happen on the day.
No, and you've got to deliver and you've got to sort out all these dogs that are coming in a minute and all the rest of it. So people are nervous and then get to coffee break and less so, and people chat. And then, 3 or 4 days later, it's a completely different ball
Hmm.
game. But going through this sort of, what do they call it? Storming, norming, performing, or whatever, and like different sort of phases that people go through of finding their balance in a new social group, isn't it?
Mm.
And yeah, we see the same thing in like dog training classes when you run those.
Yeah.
It's all kind of, but yeah, it's fascinating working with people. And sometimes people surprise the hell out of you, don't they?
Surprise is one word.
Yeah. Why is it like not paying your bill when you spent the 3 hours working with the blinking Malinois when you could have just stayed home?
Yes,
Things like that.
things like that.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think it's a really good profession to get into, but you have to have a bit of savvy to
yeah,
get into it. I think we haven't really touched on the skills behind it other than the dog behavior. I mean, you have to, especially at the minute, you have to learn social media, you have to learn about marketing, fact finding, report writing, interview skills.
yeah. No, yeah. It's all, like I said, there's so much to this occupation, and it does, a lot of it is governed, I think, by people's own personality style. I mean, we all do things very differently. Everybody that I know that works in this occupation,
Mhm,
we deliver our consults differently.
mhm.
Just because that we can't replicate other
No,
people, and you have to use your own personality style to get these people on board and to work with them and to use humor when it's appropriate and to know
yeah,
absolutely when it's not appropriate to use humor. And
yeah. And it's just, I think, no, it's gone.
what
No, it's
whilst you're
gone.
thinking,
Uh,
if you were to start, if you were like, 20-year-old Les or whatever, and this you decided I want to be a dog behaviorist, kind of knowing what you know now, where would your 20-year-old self start? What would your advice be to say
bloody hell.
this is what you need to do now to get to where you want to get to, being a published author or whatever, all of that stuff you've achieved. 20-year-old you or 20-year-old anybody now, where did we go? What do we do?
I've got no idea, actually. I've got no, I mean, the writing, like being an author, that came out of what I was seeing on the field. That was it's passion again, isn't it? I mean, it's passion. I mean, the amount of I mean, I got turned down for the books a couple of times by publishers. I got told that the pet gun dog would never take off and I should give it a different name.
Well, you
And it
don't get
was
up at 5 o'clock in the morning writing books without passion, do you?
not really, not
No.
really. And and just pushing on and doing it because it needed to be written because of the amount of behaviour cases I was seeing with working lines.
Hmm.
And that was, but where would I start? I think I would start, you'd have to have a dog.
Yeah, I think I think as well that you interesting you say
There's
that, because
behaviourists out there who do not have dogs.
there are, and we have a number of students actually that some of those are from overseas and some are working in different occupations that don't allow them to have dogs. Um, but I've always, I mean, I like cats as well, so I would really love to have a cat.
Hmm.
But I don't have a cat because lifestyle and where I live and whatever is not suited to having a cat, right? So I don't have one. But that's not a problem. But I couldn't not have a dog
No, no.
because that's why I do what I do. You know what I mean? It's all about the dog. I couldn't not have a dog,
Mm.
and so yeah, I think that starting with having a
I
dog
think
is.
having a dog
Mm.
is key. Um, I think depending on where you want to go with it would depend on the breed, or perhaps it's a breed that depends on where you want to go. Like for me with the gun dogs, um, I think I would do a lot of reading and I would find my true north pretty quickly. That's the key for me. I mean,
How would you do that though? I mean, how you say your true north, which is when you say your true north, you mean
your beliefs,
kind of like the truth of what the truth of what
the
you
truth
believe.
of why you do what you do. For me, and so for me, I mean, I don't think the true north is even in relation to a training style. For me, my true north is just common sense. I think it's no, oh God, as a 20-year-old. I mean, for me, it was I said if I could raise my son as well as I can train a dog, as half as well as I train my dog, I'll be really happy.
Mm.
Do you see what I mean? So it's like it's that. It was that element for me. It was I think having a dog and looking to see what you want out of the relationship and how you think it should be, and then reading around the topic. So for me, when I had my first dog when I was 13, I wanted to find out everything about her.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn what made my dog tick. I did like wacky things. I had her walk in the wall and jump in the posts and carrying eggs, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what my dog could do, what it was capable of
Yeah.
doing. And again, it's passion, isn't it? And then
Yeah.
from there, reading about dogs, reading about the different breeds, reading about what they're capable of. Now with social media, I really wouldn't know. I really wouldn't know where to start with social media because there's so much crap out there.
I
There's
think
so
that's
much crap out there.
yeah, to find your, I mean, when you were 20, a couple of years ago, um, when we were younger, the books available on we didn't have social media. We had Barbara Woodhouse on the TV. Um,
Barbara Woodhouse and Dogs with Dunbar with Nina Bondarenka. So there was Dogs with Dunbar, and it was Nina Bondarenka that I liked the most because she really got inside of her head, didn't she?
she's still around, isn't she?
Should
Still,
get her on.
yeah, oh, could do. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, we didn't have social media. We didn't have
Mm.
the influence. And the books that we read would largely be along the same lines of what to do. And some of that now looking back is kind of old fashioned and you wouldn't do some of those things now to train a dog. But
No, no.
you didn't have this well, like you said, trying to find your true north amongst all of the information and
Crap.
misinformation and stuff you get now
Mhm,
would be very difficult unless you can, unless you're with a course provider or whatever and you align yourself with people that
mhm.
that make sense. And like you said, really, common sense is kind of wins the day, doesn't it?
Well, I
It's
hope
not.
so.
It's not. I mean, training dogs. There is a skill to it. There is a science. There is an art, but it isn't. Rocket science. A lot of it is common sense.
Mhm.
And so is behaviour. So is problem solving. Sometimes you go into people's homes. When they say, "Oh, every time I'm sitting watching the TV all evening with the dog cuddling, and when I try to put it on the floor, it bites me." Well, Dad, how about
Don't
don't
have it on the settee.
but they don't think of that, and it's a lot of this sort of problem solving is kind of common sense
It is.
when you know it.
Yeah, yeah. What about you? Where would you start?
Probably kind of where I did get into kennels, get into do that, get that foundation stuff
Mhm.
sorted out first, and then, like I said, there are lots of courses available now. I mean, obviously, I think CIDBT are one of the best, but there are oh, but you have to find, you have to do your research, have a look at tutoring courses. There are lots of courses available, but you can't learn what you need to learn in a weekend. And you
No.
do need to have the hands-on practical knowledge, whether it's, working in a daycare, whether it's volunteering at your local rescue kennels,
Mhm.
whether it's, whatever, anything, just, like I said, making tea, helping out your dog training class.
Mhm.
That's kind of where you have to start. That's, how it always used to be. And I think that's, it's really important. And now we've got, the academic kind of information and qualification to run parallel to that, which we didn't have previously.
No.
But that's so important working with dogs.
I would still want to start as a therapist, I think.
Which
I would
I
because
mean,
I
like
know.
it's a dog.
Sorry?
like I said, dog groom is a cool place to start because you learn an awful lot about body language and dogs and,
Yeah,
where
but
not to touch them.
learning about them from the inside out for me, and learning about the mechanics of movement. I
Hmm.
mean, about because I mean, I've been speaking out about harnesses like since we met,
Yeah.
things people hadn't considered before.
Mm.
But that comes from my kinesiology background. And I know how dogs move. I know put this on that and it'll impact that. The
Yeah.
anatomy trains of the body and all. And so I think it gives me a deeper insight and a deeper understanding to behaviour, especially in relation to equipment.
I wonder if I'll shut up in a minute because we need to go, but I wonder if um you would, if you hadn't done that first and you'd done did it the other way around, so to speak. I still think you'd probably have a similar understanding of those physiological implications because of your behavior study with the dog. Do you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is that,
probably.
yeah. I mean, we see a lot, and it used to impress me a lot with like a lot when I first started, a lot of the older trainers and stuff, and some of them were not, you wouldn't sort of want to look up to too much, but they would be able to spot things I couldn't. Like they'd be like, "Oh, that dog's lame." I'd be like, "What? How do you know? How do you know?"
Okay.
Do
Yeah.
you not
Yeah.
like you? It would be a slight change in the movement of the
Mm.
dog. I couldn't say, I don't know. But the more you study, the more you become in tune with that anyway, don't you? Do you not? You
Yeah.
do see the lead. You can feel it on the lead. If you've got a dog on the lead with a bit of tension in the lead, you can feel the dog's walking out of alignment or whatever. You
Yeah.
know that's not a regular movement. So
Yeah.
you kind of learn by default of being around.
Yeah, I think as well, I've been teaching people how to ride horses since I was like 12. And
Yeah,
so that helped, just knowing the gait inside out and
yeah.
actions and movement and how, yeah, yeah.
No, I do. And I just finally, if it might not be final, I don't know. We're talking about the role of the behaviors and a lot of the time it's really looking at the a holistic approach to the whole situation, isn't it? But as you're just touching on sort of medical implications and things, and then there can be physiological and medical components that cause behavioral issues.
Yeah,
And I think it's very dangerous. And if you don't have an awareness of all, because you could go into a home and if you don't have an understanding of kind of the medical issues, and I'm just totally not a vet at all, but if you don't have an understanding of what sort of medical issues could impact the
both
behavior,
behavior issues. Yeah,
then you could get in a mess. And obviously, we're not allowed to diagnose or suggest any
no.
kind of reason for the problem, but we are able to say, I think there's an issue there, and that needs to go to your vet.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's a lot. You need a lot in your head when you're going into a behavior consult.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Was that
That
the
was
final thing?
that was the final thing
Are
by
you
the
sure?
looks of it. Yeah. Actually, I could actually go on for another like 3 hours, but yeah,
Yeah, please don't.
I'll go on.
You're the one who's got to go.
No, it's cancelled. The weather's bad.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh God, does that mean I've got to keep talking to
No, you can go.
you? Okay, so that was, I don't know, want to be behaviorist? Maybe
Fascinating insight into yeah,
into what we do.
yeah, into what we've been doing for a very long time.
Cool.
On that note, off you go.
Go and get a cup of tea.
Thanks for listening. It's not just gun dogs and not just guard dogs, but all things canine, as we hope you have discovered. Please like, share and subscribe and help us spread a bit of common sense back into dog ownership. And a review wouldn't go amiss either. Catch up with Les and Ross again in about 14 days for more canine conversations. Until next time, stay well and enjoy your dogs. Any dog-related questions or topics, just drop an email to talk@cfba.uk or message us via facebook.com/gundogs and guard dogs podcast.